What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Run Your Mouth podcast. I am here on the expedition trying to find Epstein's killer, and we have finally located the Orange Beast. And now the next step of the process is to bore him with politics so that he takes a nap and that we can bring him back to the United States of America and then bring him to justice. Now, it might take some time. You know, they still got to go through all the papers that they had in the burn room. But I can only do my part of tracking down, locating the beast, and then boring him with chatter of the flat tire I got this past weekend, and with politics that we can subdue him and bring him back for justice after they indict the Clintons, have them show up and give testimony. And their testimony is just going to be, well, we were just hanging out with Trump. That's all. We were just hanging out with Trump. Yeah, we were at a party with Epstein and Trump. We were just hanging out, me and Trump. It's going to be 3 hours of people in Congress going, yep, I'm happy to give testimony about the time that I was just hanging out with Trump over at the Epsteins. We were having a nice dinner. It was just before he bought Melania. You know, they were talking about terms. He had her on layaway until she turned 18 and could be properly imported into this country. And, but, you know, I was just hanging out with Trump at the time. Anyways, you know, we got a lot of big news topics to get into. To, you know, bore the beast so that we can bring him back to the United States of America for justice, but only after they go through all the burn bags. We got to go through all the burn bags first. There's an order to this. If you're going to have proper investigations, there's an order to these things. But I would like to rant about this for a minute, which is I need the end of the world Run Your Mouth diesel mobile. The Run Your Mouth diesel mobile. I got my second flat tire in a brand new car. And I just like to delve into the world of flat tires on why who put us on the donut system? That's really what I want to know. Who sat in a meeting one day and decided, hey, let's give these people a donut. Let's be ambiguous about how far you can drive it for. If a person drives it for more than 100 miles, let's change the tire and let's shove it back in the back of the car. Let's make them be on edge and tell them that they can only drive 55 and only drive it for 50 miles. And then someone raised their hand and like, can't we just carve out the back of the car and make it enough space for a full tire so that people don't have to go through the entire ordeal of changing the tire just to put on something that they can't really drive on and then have to find a tire shop only to find out that they don't even have the tire that you need? This system, just make 4 tires. But each company should just have 1 tire in each size, because that's the other thing. If you got an all-wheel drive, you need all of your tires to fit. They all got to match. Or maybe that's just the scam that they tell us Jews that know nothing about cars. So they tell you that if all your tires don't match, you're going to ruin your all-wheel drive. And so the ordeal that you go through of first you got to get the donut on, then you got to find a tire shop that will actually take you. Then you got to go into the tire shop and then find out that they don't even have a tire that matches the treads of your tire. So you're welcome to buy a tire to still be in a situation where you have to go and buy another tire. That's why I want one of these end-of-the-world diesel mobiles where I can just slap 5 tires on a roof grate, and every single time I get a flat, it's got to be a big enough car that you can get that jack that you just can go do the old up-down thing, as opposed to having to be underneath the car on your hands and knees. And you never pull off in a good spot. You always think you're going to pull off on a road, and then you find out you die just before a blind turn, and then you get the entire town stopping, calling the newspaper, people with nicer arms than you getting out there asking if you need help, and it's like, no, I'm going at my own changing a Jew tire pace. I can change this tire, I can get the donut on, I can drive this to the gig, and then decide to panic about it later, think that the Mazda dealership's going to be open on a Sunday, pay for a hotel so I can go to the Mazda dealership, find out that there is no Mazda dealership and that all the tire shops actually open up real late, and then buy a tire that doesn't match the other tires, and then decide if I care or if I'm just going to ruin the all-wheel drive. I got to tell you guys, I think I'm no longer buying new stuff. I think I learned my lesson about new stuff. I think when you buy new, you think you're going to pay that premium, you're going to get good service, and that was the main reason I got a car, was so that when I was out on gigs, you wouldn't have to deal with all the old car shenanigans and be stranded and having to tell people, hey, I'm unprofessional. Because like, at least if it's new, I guess it's not your fault. I got a brand new car and the tire exploded, versus I got this old hunk of shit that's 15 years old and breaks down on me. At least then it's not your fault. It's the manufacturer's fault. But I mean, I've had this car. I've had it. I guess I've only had it 4 months. Probably put about 15,000 miles on it by now. But firstly, first 2 oil changes were supposed to be free. It was already the hitting me for filters and this, that, the next thing. And I'm like, well, this wasn't free. And then I've already had a second flat tire. And not to mention, I eat too many cookies in a car for me to be buying new anyways. The other day I was vacuuming the inside. There was a whole birthday cake worth of sprinkles underneath my seat. And it's like, what's the point of the, and then I did this a couple years ago. I bought myself a nice road back bike. So I'm a big old fatty McFats. And I got to do everything I can to try and keep these big old titties in check as I go out there. I drink on people's lawns. I eat cookie late at night, and then have stomach problems and pretend like the good Lord cursed me with a bad stomach, and it's not because I'm drinking whiskey and eating cookies in my car. And so, you know, I gotta invest in the exercise. I gotta figure out the things that don't hurt, and you gotta do a lot of it to try and work off all those cookies that you're eating. And I used to do a lot of bike riding in the city on an old hand-me-down bike that I got from my dad. It was like 40 years old. And then I moved to the burbs during COVID. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get back into riding. I'm going to do some real riding. And then I was convinced that COVID was going to drive prices so up to the wazoo. I was like, this is going to be my last chance to buy like a nice bike. And so I was like, you know what? Buying a nice bike. We're going to the bike store. We're buying a new bike. And I picked a bike store that specifically had fittings, because if you buy a bike, you can go watch. I did a bit on the last special about bike seats that are just slamming up against your asshole. It's uncomfortable. And if you want to be working off your cookies, you want to be doing, you know, 40, 50, 60-mile rides. You really want to be out there cruising on the open road, pedaling, and feeling like you earned your right to be a fatty McFat when you're at home. All right? And so I know from my previous experience with bikes, if you're buying a nice bike, you got to get it fitted. And so I bought it from a store that specifically had fittings. And then when I buy it, the guy's like, listen, you can't even do a fit. We won't even fit you in the first year. You got to ride this thing so you can come back and tell us specifically what's hurting you. Because unless you clock a lot of miles and you can tell us specifically what's bothering you, we're not going to make the proper adjustments. And I go, all right, fine, if that's your protocol. And then in that first year owning that bike, I didn't ride it that far because it hurt like fuck. The thing was completely uncomfortable, unfitted to my body. I'm stretching my arms too far. The back of my back's hurting. My knees are hurting. You just feel like an 80-year-old man. You feel like you're decrepiting your own body. And I'm like, this is a stupid system. And then finally, I bring back the bike the next year to get it fit. And you know what they do? They put it in the trainer. They make you buy a bike bib from the store. So now you're out another $250 plus the $200 you're going to do for the tune-up on the bike. And then the guy takes one look and he goes, oh yeah, this bike seat shouldn't be here. Oh yeah, we just got to make that. And like, they didn't do a proper fitting. They made 4 adjustments they could have just done when they sold me the bike and then did a proper fitting. And the point I'm trying to make is I think that the premium on new is just overdone, especially like if you're like me and you don't really like taking care of things and you find everything to be a hassle and you're going to destroy it. You might as well have let someone else break the thing in so that you could just continue to break it. And then it's like it wasn't new anyways. And so you didn't pay the new premium, which doesn't seem to come with what do you guys feel like in the chat? Do you feel like the new premium's worth it? Because I'm starting to learn from both the 2 purchases I've made in my adult life of new stuff is that the service sucks anyways, and you end up with all the hassles of old, so it's not worth it. Anyways, chip in. Go to porchstore.com and buy your tickets so that at some point I can afford to buy the end-of-the-world diesel van that's just got those giant tires on them, and you got them slapped on the roof of the car so you can just change them on the road. You can just bail on a tire. I didn't even need that thing anyways. All right, Porch is coming up. Brought to you by YoKratom.com, home of the $6 kilo. Only place in the entire world that sells kilos of Kratom for just $60. And, you know, I'd like to do more episodes of the show. Maybe more people got to sign up for the paywall. We'll go back to Fridays, or maybe I just need some more sponsors. But if you're out there, you got a product or service, and you want to be like YoKratom.com and mentioned at the top of every single episode, hit me up, robsnewsroom@gmail.com. But in the meantime, you guys can support the Porch Store by showing up to the porches. And in this upcoming week, we've got only one show out in Minnesota, Bear Lake, Minnesota. It was a blast last year. And then we've got the wild runs through Tennessee. I've got Memphis, Tennessee. I've got Bon Aqua, Tennessee, not too far from Nashville, back at one of the OG porches. at CPU Dog's farm. Then we're going to be in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I ain't never been to no Chattanooga. Some fan hit me up, though, that they got some really like trippy exhibit bar with all sorts of fun things that you can consume there. So Chattanooga already seems more interesting than I was expecting. And I don't think I could do that pre-show, but, you know, maybe we'll get him to open it up after the show and I'll miss my flight the next day. And then the following weekend, I got St. Louis. I've got Peckett, Indiana, which isn't too far from Louisville, Kentucky. Then we're going to be by Shawnee and Ted's, who've got their bar. It's on the Kentucky side, but it's like right outside of Cincinnati. Don't get all like it's not Cincinnati. It's literally 20 minutes on the other side of the river, but then you're in Kentucky and you can drink bourbon while you're in Kentucky, which is a little bit cooler. And then we're back in Ohio, and then I'm writing the Smoke Out Bug Out, and that's enough plugging. Let's take some comments and get into the news. All right, let's see what's going on in the news. Let's go. All right, first, I got Badizi coming through, letting me know, fuck Priceline. Let's come back to that bit later in the show. If you guys write that in the chat later in the show, and I will let you know some of the logistical dynamics that I deal with these companies, because that was a wild one yesterday. Joe, just bought a used sports car with low miles. Best car-related decision of my life. Well, for now, until you find out that maybe the guy ate too many cookies under the seats. They didn't get it all out there. Anyways, a fix. Hopefully, it's not an American car at least, but yeah, like a house, it's nice to have somebody find and fix problems before you get it. Fair enough. Rogie Axe, use is always better for bikes, cars, and women. I like it. All right, let's get into the show. Let's see what we've got planned. Producer man, let's get this up on the screen. Let's see what we got going on. And first story in the news is we've got South Korea is taking down its giant propaganda speaker wall. They've been using this thing for years, blasting all the propaganda up into into North Korea. And, you know, speaking of chipping in and doing your part for Run Your Mouth Enterprise of America, can we buy this thing, put it a couple miles down the road, and just broadcast that we stand against loud drilling equipment and rave music and art of lost spaces? Maybe this will put it over the edge where the guy just walks around and he goes, Q keeps broadcasting that I shouldn't be running my equipment from this artist loft area. What do you guys think is the funniest usage? Maybe we sell it to the people of Gaza and they just play into Israel. Can I please have some more, please, sir? Sir, can I please have some more? Just constantly coming out of Gaza, being played into Israel. Or maybe we can buy this and Trump can bring it down to California to scare what's left of the illegal immigrants to self-deport when he goes, I'm going to find you. Hide and go seek. Come out wherever you are. People in the chat, what do you think would be the funniest usage for the South Korea loudspeaker that I'm going to guess is going on the market? I can't imagine that they're just going to throw out perfectly good propaganda speakers. Next, we've got Biden handlers ready to unleash a trove of embarrassing Kamala stories in response to her book. And it's this is just so fun. It's just like they're the human version of politicians, both just wearing like the old school I'm with stupid t-shirt. And firstly, you know, Kamala Harris had to write the book because she couldn't tell it to us. She couldn't do a tell-all because she can't actually speak. And we'll know whether or not it was written by her if there's spontaneously laughter just written into the book and the words, right, and a lot of talk about OCD things like how nice it is to live on a thing that's round and how wheels work. And my guess is they didn't pay her enough money for this book because they paid her enough that they convinced her not to run for governor and to just disappear and to, you know, call it a lifetime in politics. But I don't know if they've paid her enough money to not even go out there and promote it. How much money do they have to spend on the book to be like, can you not even promote this thing? We're going to pay you a lot of money for this book that nobody's going to read. You're going to get your hand out for your service in government. I mean, sure, you blew $1.5 billion on what might have been the worst campaign ever. Hopefully she figured out how to pocket some of that money for herself. But here you have it. Book coming out. And can't write any of the juicy details on Biden because as dumb as Biden is, he can still stand there and go, I'm not as dumb as her. Here's some of the things she thought. All right. And now we've got to talk about the debate of Dave Smith and Alex Berenson. And I saw people on Twitter were giving me shit. People were like, how did you hype this as that this guy was going to be Dave's hardest opponent to date? Why did you mislead me into wasting an entire Friday night telling me to grab my popcorn and that this was going to be a good debate? And I have to tell you guys, if you go back down the COVID archive, this guy was so legendarily good on COVID. There was a long stretch at the beginning of COVID where every storyline was coming out, and I was doing so much homework to try and debunk the stuff. I was doing a lot of my own, like, real, just trying to, like, figure things out type deal. And then at some point, I found Alex Berenson, and he was way better at it and had come to a lot of the similar conclusions, had a much more scientific brain than I do, and was doing the best coverage. And then all of a sudden, I didn't have to do quite as much work because the starting point could kind of be, well, what has Alex said about this? And then you could do a little bit of research from there and see if other people were taking on that criticism, if it's in line with other thing that you were seeing. But he became a really like an unbelievable tool during the COVID regime of debunking everything that was going on. And I can tell you that it was in brilliant analysis that, I mean, I made this joke on Twitter, but after listening on to the debate, I'm like, shit, I think I got to go get vaccinated for COVID. If you guys didn't watch it, it was quite a shit show. God bless Dave, just not letting him off the hook for, you know, calling him, I guess, a Holocaust denier. There were a couple just little pieces of stupidity that I would just listen. You can go watch the debate. Dave doesn't need anything from me. He's the master of these debates. But there were a couple of takeaways, and I'll keep it real short. But first is because I see, it's not the first time I've seen this from someone, but the wouldn't respond to me is not an indicator of anything. Nobody, you're not, any individual is not the world court of opinion that you can say, make any allegation towards somebody, and if they choose not to respond to you, now they're guilty. Hey, I think this person's a pedophile. Will you just tell me that you're not a pedophile? And then if the person, or it's like, go watch Louis C.K. It's one of the funniest Opie and Anthony bits ever when Donald Rumsfeld is on the show and Louis C.K. just keeps on asking him if he's a lizard and he won't respond to him. And so Louis literally doing this joke where he goes, well, if he's not a lizard, why can't he just say that he's a lizard? And Anthony's like, he's not going to dignify this with the response. And he goes, well, maybe they can lie about everything except about being lizards unless you ask them if they're a lizard. You can go watch this. I promise you, it's if you've never heard it, it's a great segment of radio. The entire archive of both Patrice O'Neill being on Opie and Anthony and every Louis C.K. appearance on Opie and Anthony. I've done you a favor. If you're listening to this podcast and you've never listened to some of that Opie and Anthony archive, there's better radio out there. Go through that archive, and then once you're all caught up on that, you can come back and listen to me talking about Bigfoot and Alex Berenson because you're missing out on a treasure trove of incredible comedic content. But that, if I had to put up there as top 5 Opie and Anthony, personal favorite Opie and Anthony bits of all time, go look up Louis C.K., Donald Rumsfeld. And it's a full hour, and the bit is kind of that Anthony's, taking it seriously and like being like, hey, we can't treat Donald Rumsfeld this way. And Louis C.K. just wanting to weigh in and get Donald Rumsfeld to respond to allegations on whether or not he's a lizard. And I mean, to me, it's one and the same. Yeah, just because someone won't respond to what you say to them doesn't mean that they're then guilty of the thing. And so the fact that someone doesn't respond to you on your wild claim that they deny the Holocaust, that they're anti-Semitic, I mean, every single morning, I guess I can get on Twitter, make allegations towards politicians. Hey, are you secretly working on a plan to harvest the organs of kids and eat them? And if not, why won't you deny it? And then I could come on here every single day and go, that fat Nadler Jew is working on a plan to eat kids because he can't get enough calories from the McDonald's he's eating. And if he doesn't have that plan, why won't he respond to my Why can't he just give a simple response of that he's not planning on eating kids? I mean, if the guy doesn't want to eat kids, he could just say to me, I don't want to eat kids. Because no one, I'm not the world court. Neither is Alex Berenson. Nobody has to engage with you. Nobody has to respond to your one question. The fact that they didn't respond to it doesn't mean that they're guilty of the thing. It just means that they didn't want to respond to you. And then it becomes, once you kind of showcase if you're trying to play some sort of a gotcha game, you're playing smarty kid pants in the back of the room and trying to figure out how you can play some sort of a gotcha game. And people are like, all right, this seems disingenuous and there's no reason for me to part of it. And they go, oh, look, this guy won't play games with me. Clearly he's guilty. So that's just off the bat. My first takeaway is nobody owes anybody a response. You're not a world court of this. And somebody's refusal to respond and get bitched out by you and just go, yeah, I'm not the thing that you're saying I am. I do not, no one owes you that. And the fact that they didn't do it doesn't mean that they're then guilty of it or that their opinion or that they behold the other opinion. All right. The other one that just caught my eye is, you know, Alex Berenson is on the show and he's supposed to be, I guess, proving that Dave Smith denies the Holocaust. And, you know, I think, like I said, you can go back and watch the episode. I think there was a little bit of hyperbole being thrown around by everybody. And, you know, and that I think Berenson was more just looking to probably debate other topics. But, you know, good for Dave saying it's inexcusable to just be throwing these kind of allegations around online. And so you're an academic. Are you actually, like, what is your evidence of the fact that I deny the Holocaust? But Berenson keeps on bringing up, Dave didn't go in there, or at least I don't think, but Berenson keeps bringing up, what's his name? The guy from Fear and Loathing in New Jerusalem. People in the comments, you can help me out here. And then he keeps going, well, why do you feel a need to defend? It's like, I don't feel a need to have this conversation at all. You like that once again, that doesn't prove that I'm guilty of something. You keep bringing something up because you want to talk about it, and so I'm responding to the thing that you want. You're not dropping it either. So why do I have to drop it? They do that shit all the time where it's like, all right, listen, we're going to do it exactly the way that I want to do it, but it's not important. They did this with the trans stuff. Oh, why are you so concerned about the trans stuff? Because you guys are doing it. And then if it's not important, then you guys can just drop it. It's a weird that you pick a fight about a particular topic, you won't drop it, and then you go, well, why is this so important to you that you can't? You're the one who's bringing it up, dude. All right, and then here's just my last kind of takeaway is I really did not participate or attend a lot of college. And for a while, that worked out really well for me because I can read and spit back information fairly easily, and I don't much like sitting in a classroom. And most of all that information was irrelevant horseshit to my life. And so of topics I was not interested in. And so I didn't have much of a need to sit in classes. I made the mistake of majoring in finance, and I'm actually not particularly good at math. And it got to a point where where the math that was on the test was like not quite what was in the textbook type deal, and you had to actually show up to class for it. And when I hit that pass road in college, where it was no longer information spit back and it was advanced math that like problems were not in the textbook, I just then failed the next 2 years of college, and it became a bit of a nightmare. And it was not, I should have, and I had too many like credits from having spent time in Israel. I got every single flex credit that you could have had, went to, you know, Talmud or whatever. I don't even remember. It wasn't that easy to switch majors. Anyways, I don't know why I went on that little tangent of, oh yeah, there was only one class I liked all of college, and it was, I think, the political science of economics. And the class basically addressed, why is it that if we kind of know what economic policies would generate the most amount of wealth and lead to the greatest societies, why aren't they implemented? And it was all about, you know, how people in power want to stay in power and winning coalitions, all this stuff. It was actually an interesting class. And there was this Asian guy, and he had this great line. He only said it once in class, but it stuck with me. And he said something about how all of academics is basically slapping a fancy word on something so that you can pretend like you understand it. And so there's a lot, and I don't know if you spent enough time around academics, but or if that will register, and I might not even be bright enough to explain what that meant. It makes sense in my head, where a lot of times you're just memorizing like the word that defines a concept, and now that you've slapped a title on it, you can pretend like you really understand the thing. It's almost like academic poetry, where you don't actually know the way that something operates, but now we've got a word for it, and so we can pretend like we understand it. And so I kind of feel like whatever the hell Israel is doing in Gaza right now, they shouldn't be doing it, and it's wrong. Is it a genocide? I don't know. I like people start like, well, what, are you not willing to call it a genocide, or why is it that you are calling it a genocide? Is genocide? Well, it's really important that we don't call it a Holocaust, because a Holocaust is more severe than. Who cares? I don't understand the import. Well, words really matter. I don't understand in this case why the words matter. Maybe I'm wrong on this one, but I don't understand. If you could just go, hey, this thing's bad and I don't want to see more of it, I don't understand why you need to have a more academic conversation. Well, are you saying that this was as bad as the Holocaust? Are you saying that this is on the level of that? Words matter. Well, are you saying that are you trying to support what's happening here? And if not, why does it matter? Why does it matter what term we use for the thing? Oh, well, listen, it's almost like points in a video game to these people of like, sure, well, it's bad, but we're not going to raise it to genocide level. I mean, this is this guy. Yes, he was incredible when he played baseball, but words matter. So I wouldn't call him an all-star baseball player. I mean, doesn't matter? Why? I don't. It's like sometimes when the academics get into their academic land of why words matter, I get a little bit lost because I'm like, I don't know the definition to these terms. I don't really care. I think it's okay to just be like, I don't like this thing and it's bad. Well, so you're not willing to call it a genocide? You are calling it a genocide. Do we need the academic conversation about it? I feel like I don't. All right, let's take a couple of comments and then we'll move on to our next topic, which is all the latest from Epstein. Wolf Tracks. Robbie, great to see Yo Kratom's continued sponsorship of Run Your M. Been supporting them for close to a decade. Keep grinding. You're killing it. That rules. There you go. Let people know about the home of the $60 a kilo and the only place in the entire world that you can get an entire kilo of Kratom for $60. A fix. I like this. Funniest use for the speakers. Just give them to Alex Jones. That's fun. Rogie Axe. The debate was a total shit show, but Dave telling him to blow on his thumb made me laugh so hard I almost shit myself. Luckily, I squeezed it in time. But Deezy, Dave only goes for low-hanging fruit. He refuses to debate Red Bar. There you go. Daryl Cooper, thank you. I should have known that name. A fix. Yeah, it's frustrating. They do the guilt by association with Dave Ray Cooper. Like, if you want to debate Cooper, not Dave about him. I know. And then they go, well, why are you so adamant about defending him? And it's like, you're bringing the guy up. You're making the conversation about that guy, not me. Big Simmies wants to know if the chat works. Yes, you're in it right now. I read your comment. It's working. Rogiax, a Jew who is not good at math. You must have been the black sheep of the family. We're not Asians. You know, we're okay at math. We're well-rounded. We're well-rounded. Carrie Locke. Lack of response isn't proof, except for Bridget McCrone and Candace Owens. All right. And then last one, Robbie Freyenlaven. Robbie, any new ideas for a new name for the Zero Hedge pod? No, I'm open to suggestions. I didn't do one last week, and I got to line someone up for this week. All right, here's all of the latest scoop of what's going on with Epstein. Firstly, anyone got the information on the burn bags? What went on with I guess the burn bags isn't really Epstein related. It's Durham related. It's a funny storyline. You know, the Durham did the whole investigation, and the government's so inefficient they just forgot to burn the burn bags. Now they're going through the actual evidence that Durham was trying to cover up for, because that's his actual position in government, and that's what he did with I think it was with the torturing and the stuff that was going on at Gitmo. But anyways, it's a possible storyline that the janitor staff is lazy, and instead of actually burning stuff, they found some room in the FBI building and they just threw the bags in it. And who knows, maybe they're just continuously building their cases. But, from the claim of burn bags to not hearing about it once again, has anyone heard anything else about the burn bags? All right. And then, of course, we've got this video. We've got a minute missing. They tell us that the security cameras always have this minute missing. They don't actually show us other evenings to show us that it's consistent that that minute's missing. Then you get the Wired, take it or leave it. And I also don't understand what metadata is, but they seem to claim that it wasn't just a minute missing. It's 3 minutes missing. It's not just a minute missing. They actually cut 2 different tapes together. And then amongst the claims, which was ridiculous, of, oh yeah, he clearly killed himself, and we'll show you guys the tape, and because no one could be on the floor. And here's the one camera angle that we have that you can easily clear in under a minute, and there's a whole minute missing. And then people seem to have screen grabbed what looks like to be some sort of a person in an orange jumpsuit, either coming or going. So there's the latest. No real new information here. They have moved Ghislaine to a lower security prison. Do you guys think that that's because they're trying to offer and they need access? They can't get access in the high security place? Or after she was nice enough to sit down and be like, Trump had nothing to do with this. Oh, there was stuff going on, but not Trump. Trump never had nothing to do with this. I'll give testimony if you'll give me immunity. But remember, Trump had nothing to do with this. Of course, Trump go, I had nothing to do with moving her. I mean, sure, she sat down with nothing to do with none of that. You guys think they're trying to offer moving her minimum security? Or she's already starting to play ball a little bit, so they're giving her the relief that the lawyer asked for. Just a little bit of relief. All right, what do we got next? The Hill, United Airlines flight declares Mayday. I got mixed feelings. There's a part of me that thinks I'm not going to stop flying until, the fans come through and they buy me my end of the world Dieselmobile. And I no longer have a home. I just become a man of the road, a lover of porches. And I just stay out there all the time, wandering porch to porch, pitching tents on people's porches, and quit pretending like I need to come home because I've got a family or work to get done. And I just stay out on the road and I eat cookies. I defecate in bath stops. All right. Anyways, there's part of me that feels like, good, report on all these and scare everyone else out from flying, and maybe the flight prices will go down. And then there's a part of me that's like, I got to fly anyways. And ever since I flew back from West Palm Beach and there was turbulence so bad, there was a lady in the aisleway screaming, we're all going to die. I've started to get afraid during turbulence. And like, there's just like a part of me that's like, I don't want to know. I don't want to hear about it. I got to fly anyways. Just don't tell me. But then also, if you could tell the other, maybe I just got to do like a news filter so that I just don't have to hear about the plane crashes. But maybe they could do more to broadcast the plane crashes so that it scares other people out of flying. And then I can call them a bunch of pussies and enjoy better seats on flights for less money. And on that note, I'm digging my heels in on our need for robots to fight their robots. Because first is, you've got the car companies now, the rental companies, they're using AI scanners. Hertz is the first to roll it out. I believe it's only in 8 locations. They're looking to expand to more locations where when you check in the car, when you check out the car, they scan it. And then when you check back in the car, they rescan it. And so little dings and little things that before they weren't going to go after you for, now, anything on that car registered in the AI scanner, they're coming after you. You're going to have to pay for it. And now the problem is, you're never getting a customer service person on the phone. You're never going to be able to discuss these things with them. And, we're going to have to start traveling with our own AI scanners so that you can scan it to combat what they're claiming with their AI scanner. And then you're going to need some robots to put their robots on hold until eventually you can actually get in touch with the human. And now here's the other one. This one is driving me nuts. Is Delta, and I've become a loyal customer of Delta, mostly because I'm a sucker for their cookies in the lounges. That's it. Well, here's what it is. It's because I go crazy with the piecing together of porches, with the piecing together of flights, with all the different options, and the difference between doing a little bit of homework. And listen, I'm actually not that cheap. I'm cheap when it comes to like big expenses. Like I don't have a mortgage and I live in an apartment that's not very expensive. This studio space, I got a sick deal on the studio space. I did not get a wildly nice car when I bought a car. I don't like fixed expenses. If you ever go out with me, I'm not that cheap when it comes to like picking up a tab, tipping waitresses. I pay too much money on iced coffees on a daily basis. Like I don't like repeating expenses because like I gotta like think about it. But like I'm not that cheap when it just like comes to dumb expenses. But when it comes to like the travel stuff for Porch Tour, I promise you the difference between like trying to do your homework on routes and options can be the difference between losing money on a porch tour or coming home with like I hope to get to the day where I'm moving so much tickets, you just book a flight the week. It just doesn't matter because there's enough money there that you don't have to drive yourself nuts trying to do things on a budget. All right. Now, this one just drives me so crazy because what they're claiming is, well, we just want to give everyone the best. What they're trying to do is figure out who can afford to spend more money and then specifically charge those people more for their tickets. And I'm going to guess that I will be a prime candidate for this because they will see that I book flights all the time. So, like, if you're just a person who in their algorithm bought one price ticket a year or they got the data on you that you're shopping around versus the other airlines, then they know that they have to offer you the cheapest price versus if you're a person who they're like, oh, this guy's a business traveler and he takes 60 flights a year and he does it all on Delta. He doesn't want to shop around on the other airlines. Let's see if we can charge him a little bit more. Oh, wow. He actually paid that. Let's see if we can charge him a little bit more. And now, you know, there's two things that's just kind of crazy about this. One, it's like the treadmill of just affording your life that you keep thinking, oh, I can't, for example, you know, you're like, I can't afford to have a family. And then you find out that if you had the family and you were completely broke, all these things that were making you go broke would have been cheaper because they would have, I don't know, had the algorithm profile on you of what your income level is and the fact that you got 4 kids to support. And they're like, well, we can't charge this guy $300 for a ticket, so we'll charge him $40 for a ticket. But this other guy, you know, he likes actually saving his money. And so he made a decision not to have kids. So let's just take, it's like the house always collects. It's like the AI algorithms are the casino of just our trying to live our lives. And they will take every penny that they can from you. And that's it's just what I was saying. It's like we need robots to fight their robots. I'm going to need some AI software that like just tells me, because Priceline fucking sucks. We can get into that in a second. But we're going to need the AI price shopper, whatever, that rigs the thing, puts in phony IP addresses, makes it look like you're from another country. And then all of a sudden they think you're from Kazakhstan and you got no money in your name. And so they'll charge you $15 for a flight. And then, you know, their customer service representative tries to, and by the way, they don't like it. Like there was a thing that people were doing where they were buying like stopover flights and then just not taking the connection because they were cheaper. And then the airlines, they didn't like that. And so I think they started like, I don't know what they were doing to police that, but you know, it's just, I don't like this. AI algorithms and it just the house collects. You've got no ability to try and save money. If you're making money now and you've got any money available for them to take from you, they'll just make sure that they charge you all of it. And I guess if you're spending all of your money otherwise and you have zero savings, then the algorithm might realize that they have to actually give you a discount. I don't know to what extent this is going to get implemented, but I think that there's a good chance that, I mean, what was nice about just being like, hey, I'm Delta all the time, I get it back with some of the perks of the free bags and that not having to shop around. I feel like this one probably just jumped the shark for me. You're like, shit, I got to go back to shopping around on this. Well, here's something that you don't have to shop around for, and that's sheathunderwear.com. If you want to know you're buying the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man for the greatest ever price, all you got to do is go to sheath.com, use promo code RYM, and get yourself 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. You can spend all day trying to shop around, trying to find a better underwear, trying to do research, trying to find better fabric, trying to find something that better separates your nuts from your balls from your dick, from your legs, that has better moisture wicking fabric. You can search the internet. You can go out there. You can delve to the depths of other countries, seeing if you can find some stand at a mall that has better underwear. And I'm here to tell you, you're not going to find it. And so you don't have to go crazy doing your research. It's a high quality product. I still have my original pairs. And so if you go to sheathunderwear.com, use promo code RYM, you get yourself 20% savings on the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. All right, let's take a couple comments, and then we can get back into our comments. Firstly, we've got JR. Robbie's Jewish side is showing. Fair enough. I'm just telling you guys the logistics of Porch Store. It's really not easy, and the fact that there's a cheaper price for the thing. Yeah, I guess that's Jewy of me. The fact that there's literally, I can be sitting next to somebody who bought the thing on the exact same day, and for some reason the algorithm has less money, so they just get charged less for the exact same thing, and so I'm able to save less money. That's infuriating. Big Simmies. Don't know if anyone asked you, but did you see Richard Warner on Tucker Carlson? Gives me zero trust we figure out anything with regards to the economy. I might have started that one and not finished it. All right. Junior, I got some I got some sweet, cheap flight hacks I learned over a couple years of traveling internationally. I'll try to explain them on email for you. I'll take that. Jess, man, YouTube's being lame. I can't start the pod from the beginning. What I miss? Well, I don't want you to be out of the loop, so I'll just start from the beginning, which is I'm hunting Bigfoot. I'm only probably doing another half hour, and then you could probably watch it from the start. All right, here is Donald Trump, and you know what? Let's give all the details on this. I watched a fair amount of the hearing on it, which is Josh Hawley is working on what he's calling the Nanci Pelosi Act. I think he's claiming he's been working on it for 7 or 8 years. And it's an act to basically ban members of Congress from trading, not just trading individual stocks, but primarily the goal is let's prevent future insider trading for members of Congress. It's not fair. It doesn't make sense as to how Nanci Pelosi, husband, is the greatest stock trader of all time. And clearly there's something screwy going on here. And so let's prevent this kind of activity in the future. And he was going further with it in that they didn't even want blind trusts. They didn't want you to be able to own a company above a certain size. There were all sorts of levels to it. All right. So I think across the board, we can all be in agreement here that members of Congress probably shouldn't be able to trade individual stocks. Maybe they shouldn't even be able to trade indexes. And the blind trust thing is probably just a bunch of hooey, where you can still call your trade advisor, your stock advisor, your uncle, your this, your that, or the next thing. Or maybe we're all of the opinion of they're not going to be able to stop it no matter what, because maybe you pass the stock tip off to somebody else and then you leave and then they hire you and they pay you $500,000 to give a speech about nothing anyways. So listen, maybe we're not going to clean up the corruption of government, but I think that this one, if you're Nanci Pelosi, you shouldn't be the greatest stock picker of all time. Or your husband or your husband should not be. There seems to be something off. And so kudos to Josh Hawley in trying to clean up some of the corruption and get rid of this. Now, one of the funny things were that they were voting specifically to investigate Nanci Pelosi for trading. And, that's fun. The left was going after Donald Trump, and they were going after him hard. And so for Republicans to be using their power now, and listen, I guess if every time people come into power and they just want to eat the other side for the corruption that they've engaged in, maybe it scares people out of engaging in corruption. So, maybe it's a win for us if government's just going after its own figures all the time, because people who are just there to be corrupt, maybe they're like, the stupid Democrats, they ruined the corruption game when they went after Donald Trump. For years, we were all there and we were all being wildly corrupt and making money, but you just can't do it anymore because once your party gets voted out of office, the other ones are going to come for you. So maybe it's a better environment. But anyways, so you got Josh Hawley, and they want to say that we're going to go after Nanci Pelosi. I actually agreed with Rand Paul, which is what you got to do is you got to say we're doing the statistical infrequencies in congressional trading. And maybe what you say is, listen, or in spousal trading, and you go, this is about the best that stock pickers do in a year. And so anyone that's done better than this, we're going to take a look at their trades and we're going to do an investigation. And then you still might say, well, now you're just punishing people for being successful. And then you can make some sort of an auditor's whatever thing of that the odds that this many people in Congress are doing this much better than the greatest stock pickers of all time on a more consistent basis is reason for, and then you get to pretend like we're not just targeting individuals. We have an actual standard and policy. And even if the standard and policy, Nanci Pelosi is the only one over that threshold, that would be a more sophisticated way of investigating specifically Nanci Pelosi. And that one actually got voted down. But I think it was in part because, people in government don't want to be playing this game of specifically just going after like individuals for corruption. The other thing that came up, and I don't know that I have a perfect answer here, but you had both Ron Johnson and this other guy that was a billionaire, where essentially they were saying that you shouldn't be allowed to own a company while you're working in Congress, which maybe that's the better way to do it. Anyone who still wants to own their company and they still want to be in private business, they shouldn't be allowed to have their shares. The inverse of that is that maybe some of or what they like to claim is some of the best and brightest minds then won't take government jobs. Even Trump right now, even though I guess his family's running the companies and everything, it's not like he is shareless. I bet he still has his shares. He just doesn't, on paper, he's not actually running the companies. But they were trying to say that, this was the argument, was that if you run and you have companies above a certain size, you should have to sell the companies. And someone was arguing you can't force sale of companies because it might be in an illiquid environment. And then the other part that I was thinking of is if you are forcing people to sell their companies when they're going to go into office, you might end up with the best opportunity to bribe somebody because they have no choice but to sell their company right now. And so if you're forced to sell your company right now, you might actually get a better or above market rate from someone that you now owe a huge favor to because they took your company when you had to sell it. The other argument about that no one should be allowed to trade at all in any capacity is just that you might be forcing some of the people who are more savvy on financial stuff who want to be able to own stocks from working government jobs at all, which means like senators might not even be able to hire staff, which, might be have a better handle over financials. But even in that case, I think people that want to serve in government or work in government, I guess they probably shouldn't be engaging in insider trading. All right. But okay, this was the funny part. So when this was going on, Donald Trump lashed out at Josh Hawley. Let's read the tweet. Why would one Republican, Senator Josh Hawley from the great state of Missouri, join with all the Democrats to block a review sponsored by Senator Rick Scott and win the support of almost all of the Republicans of Nanci Pelosi's stock trading for the last 25 years? The information was inappropriately released just minutes before the vote, very much like sabotage. The Democrats, because of our tremendous achievements and success, have been trying to target me for a long period of time, and they're using Josh Hawley, who I got elected twice, as a pawn to help them. I wonder why Hawley would pass a bill that Nanci Pelosi is in absolute love with. He is playing right into the dirty hands of the Democrats. It's a great bill for her and her husband, but so bad for our country. I don't think real Republicans want to see their president, who has an unprecedented success, targeted because of the wins of a second-tier senator named Josh Hawley. And now we've got Josh Hawley responding to Donald Trump's angry tweet. Roll the clip and let me know if we've got sound.
Listen, I had a good chat with the president earlier this evening, and he reiterated to me he wants to see a ban on stock trading by people like Nanci Pelosi and members of Congress, which is what we passed today. I think it is absolutely vital we put a stop to this. Pelosi shouldn't just be investigated. She should be prosecuted. And we need to make what she is doing and other members of Congress is doing illegal. I mean, you shouldn't be able to go up to Congress and get rich by trading on information that only you have and not members of the public. Right now, lots of members of Congress are getting by with it. We need to make the whole thing illegal.
So when you spoke to the president, Did he explain why he called you second tier?
Well, I think that the president, a number of people who are opposed to banning stock trading had said to the president that he would be covered by the bill. He'd have to sell Mar-a-Lago and sell assets. Not the case at all. The president and the vice president, all their assets are totally exempted. And here's the point. This is what we talked about.
I want to pause there. Is that first is, oh, well, if it doesn't apply to me, then totally, yes, saddle everyone. We'll spit this horse shit. That was one of the complaints, by the way, by Rand Paul, is that if this is a standard for everyone, it should apply to the president and vice president. And most of the complaints in the hearing were actually not about individual stock trading. It was about whether or not you had to sell off your companies. But, all right, listen, maybe this is too high of a level of Trump derangement syndrome. But, I mean, either Donald Trump took issue with this because he then found out it doesn't apply to him, so he doesn't care. He goes, yeah, if you want to saddle everyone else with this, fine, but just don't be coming after me. I mean, this isn't even really, this is more of an and/or. He got bad intelligence from somebody that this did include him, which upset him, which is, then you got to wonder, it's like, how informed is Donald Trump? Like, this shouldn't be excusable either. So there's other people that don't want this law to apply to them. So they lied to Donald Trump and told him that it would include him. And so then Donald Trump hopped on this with anger until he found out it's rules for thee and not for me. And when he found out he wasn't included, he didn't care. And so so it's both. I mean, it's kind of like a twofold infraction here of one of being uninformed and going to Twitter and being upset with someone, like, you're just not really understanding things. And I understand it's just Twitter, but he is the president. And so someone gives him information. He's got bad advisors that give him the wrong information. And so he's out yelling over bad information. And the bad information in this case is this doesn't include me, so I don't care. All right. And now, next story, which also, maybe this is too much Trump derangement syndrome. But here is Donald Trump trashing Jerome Powell. And maybe this is me taking Donald Trump a little bit too literally. Maybe at the moment he just doesn't like Jerome Powell, and so he's out here and he's trashing Jerome Powell. But Jerome Powell was Donald Trump's pick. And now let's listen to why he made that pick, and we'll go from there. Roll the clip. Let me know if we got sound, everybody.
A lot of times they're very good. Like this character that we have in there now, Jerome Too Late Powell. He was very good. He said, "Sir, I'll keep interest rates so low. I'm a low interest rate person, sir." You could hardly hear him talking over the desk. Somebody that worked for me was a big fan of his, not a fan of his, he hardly knew him, but he wanted him so bad.
All right. I mean, just first infraction off the bat is that, so you make promises to the president over low interest rates, and that's how you get the Fed job. Incredible level of autonomy. All right, let's continue, though.
I did somebody a favor. I put him in there. No, he's too late.
And then I did somebody a favor and I put him in there. So is that how people are getting high positions in government? It's just favor dealing? I mean, is the president admitting to favor dealing here? I didn't like the guy, I didn't want the guy, but, you know, I owed a favor. And so when there's important jobs, we give it out to the people who we owe favors to. I owed a favor, not a friend of mine, friend of another guy I owed a favor to. And important jobs, they go to the people when we owe a favor. So that's why you got appointed. I owed a favor. Favors are favors. That's the way it works in government.
He's too late. That name will stick to him.
Can you handicap it at all? Who you're, or you won't know? When will you know? And when will you announce it?
I think the two Kevins are doing well, and I have two other people that are doing well. You look, it's in the end there are numerous people that are qualified. Everyone on your phone right now, in terms of at your beautiful studio, a lot of time.
I just want to replay this from the beginning. And listen, you can chalk it up to this is just the way government works, or you can chalk it up to this is just Donald Trump trashing the guy while he doesn't like him, and so don't take Trump literally here. But I think every single statement here is kind of high-level corruption. Let's listen to it again.
A lot of times they're very good. Like this character that we have in there now, Jerome Too Late Powell. He was very good. He said, "Sir, I'll keep interest rates so low. I'm a low interest rate person, sir." You could hardly hear him talking over the desk.
Is Warsh in the
Somebody that worked for me was a big fan of his, not a fan of his, he hardly knew him, but he wanted him so badly. I did somebody a favor, I put him in there. No, he's too late.
I gave him the job because he promised me low interest rates and I owed somebody a favor. All right, I guess that's how government appointments happen. At least it's honest from Donald Trump of how we're getting our government appointments. All right, I don't really feel like reading that. Let's take a couple comments, then we'll play our last two random topics. Matzo balls, fuck YouTube. I didn't get a notification Robbie was going live. First it was Israeli propaganda ads, now this. You're not getting Israeli propaganda ads on my channel. My channel's not even monetized because I figure that they will instantly strip it off the internet. Mr. Scott at Matzo Balls, it makes you feel better. Your chat comment also doesn't show if you select top chat. I don't know what that means. Rogie asks, if this bill passes, Nanci Pelosi can always start an OnlyFans with those mommy milkers she's got on her. Well, you know what? I think her mommy milkers look like they belong on a 20-year-old, and then she'd have to answer for other questions of why, when you undress her, she's got the body of a young vampire. Scott M, favor dealing, welcome to government. Yeah, I get it. Blake, hey, Robbie. Hey, Blake. All right. Here we've got, this was two leftover topics from last week. But this was a little racist village within the United States of America. Let's play it, and then I got a bit of a hot take. Play the video.
No blacks, no Jews, no gays. High up in the Ozark Hills, in the state of Arkansas, dozens of people have been working hard, building houses and a new type of community. It's called Return to the Land, and it is a town open to white people only. They are millennials and Gen Z, and this is a new update of age-old prejudice.
What we've done here is establish a place where we have control over who our neighbors are, and that is just for the sake of preserving, you know, our culture.
And that culture, effectively, we're saying this is a white culture, a whites-only place.
White American culture.
But what this sounds like is bringing back segregation. Is that a fair assessment?
It's free association. So we're not trying to keep other people down. This is a small settlement in the middle of the Ozarks.
But they are being kept out, even if...
Well, I mean, you don't let everyone into...
No blacks, no Jews.
All right, I'm going to pause it there and go, isn't that kind of beautiful? If you're a black person, you know, you don't have to deal with these racists because they've got their own area. And if these people want to live there and they're more enthusiastic about actually contributing to their society because it's more in line with the vision that they like, maybe they're actually being nicer to all the people around them and they're actually working towards a nicer society. They're actually motivated as opposed to the way all of us live, which is basically leeching off the system and trying to lobby the government so that we can have free stuff at the expense of other people. So I'm just saying, isn't that a better system? If you're a minority, you now don't have to interact with people who don't like you and don't want to be around you. And then for the people that would rather live that way, they get to be motivated to really showcase that that works. And then they're actually nicer to each other as opposed to living amongst the rest of us and just being a bunch of assholes because it's not where they want to be. I don't know. It just strikes me like a better system. What do you think? Like, you really think if, I don't know. Why do people have such low self-esteem that they think if you give people the right to do this, then everyone in the entire country would decide to just live this way? And then if you're a minority, there'll be absolutely nowhere that you can go. I don't buy it. All right. And then, here's one more. I don't even know what actually happened here, but apparently, at least the way this was titled, but it brings me to, I guess, an ethical question that I was just thinking while I watched it. But you got this guy's leaving jail, or he's leaving court. Apparently, he had killed a baby, and I believe that this is someone with an affiliation to the child charging him and getting a couple hits in. And it's not the only time I've ever seen this, but I don't know. If someone kills a relative of yours, like, should part of the sentencing be you get a couple shots in, or maybe you get to close the gate on them once they get into the jail type deal? Like, yeah, I mean, you can't hit people type deal in public or whatever, but I don't know. It's hard to feel if listen, if this was labeled appropriately and that guy's actually found guilty of killing a baby, and it was that kid's guy's kid or relative, like, I don't know, do you really feel bad that for this guy that guy was able to get a couple of shots in? Throwing it out there. Questions. Just asking questions. All right. I think that's everything that I wanted to cover. Maybe back. Oh, all right. Yeah, we'll close it out on this one. And not the best, but it was roaming around in my head. But this was Trump administration to fast track lunar nuclear reactor. And I was just thinking how funny it would be if a Trump initiative accidentally blew up the moon. And then Trump was on TV going, there never was a moon. I mean, maybe there was a moon. I like the moon. It was always cool. We got along good. But come on, the moon, it never existed. Obama, he blew it up. I didn't blow up the moon. Obama blew up the moon. I mean, I always liked the moon, but there wasn't a moon. We've never had a moon. Anyways, that's our episode. Enough Trump derangement for one episode. That's our show. Back. I might do an episode on the website on Friday. I don't know what the hell I'm doing with my life. Come out to Porch's, porchtour.com, Tennessee, Minnesota.